looks bad because it's like you see all the publisher like formatting stuff all around it, but I don't know
Could
how to.
you
I don't know how to
is there a
change.
way to go full screen?
I don't think there is. If there is, I'm not sure how to do it with publisher, but that's just my limitations. In the view options, it doesn't seem to be that way. I guess if I saved it as a PowerPoint slide, that would do it.
Oh yeah, that might be a good, but it doesn't, I mean, I think it's fine either way. I could read it. They should be able to read it.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe I'll try to make it look better. I don't know that we have any participants yet. I can't see as much stuff. No, it's just us. No
Yes,
attendees.
could you save it as like a
I'll do a PowerPoint.
like a PowerPoint or even like a PNG image?
Yeah, and then I can't remember what PNG has around it as like a border, but you're right. Let me try that. I'll just mess with it. I guess now everybody's watching me do that. Oh boy, I'm not so good at this screen sharing thing. Hold on. Stop share. Okay, I'll figure that out. But in the meantime, here we are, and I'll post that up as soon as I can figure out how to do it.
Okay. Sounds good.
Hi, Wolfgang.
Yeah, having some internet connectivity issues, but I am here.
Oh, okay. We may want to send a quick message to Sue if she. I think we had come to the consensus that we were.
Has Sue already joined?
No, she. I think we had exchanged a few
did.
emails, and the assumption was that it was going to be postponed and not called to order. So if that is the case, I can. We can do that.
Gotcha. I was still. I think in my original email, I was still hoping I could join you.
Yeah.
But,
and you have. I mean, you're actually right on time, basically. But yeah. I think Sue may not realize that. I can email her quickly and see if she can join.
well, I sent a message to Sue to see if she could be here.
Great.
And get 2 new messages.
I won't send mine then.
Oh, she was planning on attending it last week.
Yeah, but we
Oh.
cleared that up already, I think, so.
Yeah, yeah, right. We cleared that up already. Yeah, I thought
Yep.
that was pretty clear from your email last week. Okay,
Yep.
let me Sue. Okay.
Okay.
Email sent. My computer does keep crashing though. It's been loading
Yeah,
the agenda.
Your connection is pretty bad.
It loaded the Zoom connection a couple times before I finally connected. Can I call this to order by myself?
I
don't
suppose you
see if there's
can.
anybody here to respond to, but if I'd like to.
Sue just replied.
Yeah, there's no one here from the public, but if people wanted to talk to us.
Okay. I'll respond to Sue.
She's also short of time. Oh, she can't make it tonight.
She could. She was
Great,
she was
okay.
planning on it, but I think
She could.
So I've just sent her another and said, if you're able, you're here, and if not, we can make a choice.
Amazing.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
the 2 things on the agenda are the talking about what your plans are for the language access.
Access plan of the disability PSA.
Yep.
Yes.
So
In answer to your question, this is the play by the Park in Fikeville with the big giant puppets.
yeah,
So-
I saw the
I don't think it's human rights business, but yeah,
that's good.
it's kind of a community event, but I probably shouldn't advertise it as a commissioner.
Probably not. Yep. But I saw that advertisement and thought, I wonder if it's the same. So
Nice.
yeah, good.
Mhm.
Let's see. I don't think Sue has said anything more.
We can comb through the communication for the disability PSA project because I looked on our box folder and I hadn't seen anything there. I know you had said it was a collection of emails, really just holding all the information, but I'd love to know where exactly that is.
Yeah, I'll look back because I
Um,
think I may have sent that all to you at one point, and I may have consolidated it somewhere. I
That was,
can
yeah,
I can relocate that. I'll make a note to do that this evening.
I had looked for it a couple weeks ago and hadn't come up with anything. I suspect it was just lost to time in a bunch of Human Rights Commission emails.
It would have been probably a year and a half ago, I would assume.
Right, but do you know if either the commissioners who worked on that project are available for contact?
Yes, they would both be, I think. Phoebe kind of, I think,
Okay.
sent me everything at the end there, so. Well, I'm not sure we're gonna see Sue here. I suppose if you can decide whether or not to call it to order, even if it's just you. Regardless, I mean, basically the difference is if you call it to order, I'll write down what we talk about. If you don't, then it'll say postponed and not called to order, so.
Okay, well, I guess I will call a meeting to order. I had some stuff prepared to talk about, so I can talk about it myself and have at least be part of the public record.
Okay.
But this is part of our intention. So I will call this meeting to order.
Okay.
Roll
6:39.
call is Wolfgang Kepley. who is here. Yeah, well, thank you. I'll recite our mission. Our mission is to act as a strong advocate to justice and equal opportunity by providing citywide leadership and guidance in the area of civil rights. And I'll turn it over to, so I'll keep moving. We don't have any minutes assigned from last time to approve. So I'll move right into the work session. This is the language access plan resolution discussion. I can't really discuss much without Sue, but I think that Charlottesville should develop and implement a language plan. This plan would enable engage with the local government and increase advocacy opportunities. It would also show the city's commitment to effectively communicate with all members of the public, serve as a citywide policy on how staff meet the commitment to provide meaningful access to individuals who speak a primary language other than English, and also that support legal requirements of city bodies that do English, English proficient individuals that have done this already, Durham being one of them, who voluntarily undertook a language access plan for their city to extend beyond legal requirement. I'm breaking up. Thank you, Larkin. I merely state our city's intention to, well, state the commission's intention to propose that the city implement draft the language access plan. So,
Okay, so yeah, and you did
Just
break
me.
up a bit there. Oh, Sue is here.
Sue,
Finally. I'm on just long enough to say goodbye.
oh no, you have to leave right away too.
Yeah, this turned out not to be a good day. And you know, we're not, from my do we have any members of the public?
No members of the public at this point.
Good.
We have no matters to the public, but we can make some progress on discussing the disability PSA project.
Well, go for it, because I am not on top of that.
Okay.
I'm just simply not on top of it right now.
Okay. Todd, were you able to send the email to me?
That I'll have to go back and search all that stuff again and find
Okay,
it.
it'll take time.
Yeah, I would
Okay.
probably want to do
No
that
worries.
off meeting. Yeah.
Okay. Then, well, so I did call the meeting to order so I could talk to myself and state that we, as the Accessibility Committee of the Human Rights Commission, intend to draft a proposal to City Council that they should implement a language access plan. And so I think that's the first time that we're stating this as a subcommittee. I had a couple points to substantiate why we should do this. And I also think that we should take Durham's model of doing this. They have a couple materials online that show their initial resolution leading up to implementing a full plan.
Okay.
So,
Do you know, do we have anybody in that office yet or not?
There's no one, they don't have an ADA coordinator yet.
isn't there a temporary ADA coordinator?
Yeah, I believe they.
I thought I heard that somebody had taken over those responsibilities.
I think there's somebody, there often is some, but they'll just put it on someone else's plate in the interim. Yeah. I'm not
Okay.
sure if they've announced who that is yet.
Okay.
If you want me to chime in on anything, you'll have to probably send something. Again, I'm not, like I say, I'm in the middle of a lot of paperwork right now. And I'm doing a whole lot of cleaning up of paperwork, and sometimes I'm throwing things out that I probably shouldn't throw out. But if they're in documents, I can find them. So if you want me to look at what
Is
the
it Human Rights Commission stuff?
yes.
Ah, okay.
Well, I'm
Is
doing
it-
I have lots of other irons in the fire here that take up my computer time. So I don't know where any of my notes are right now.
Well, just in terms of making progress, you know, it sounds like you have an intent to pursue this language access plan. What I would probably suggest is if you'd like the commission to adopt that, the role of the committee would be to draft a resolution that you'd like the commission to consider adopting. And once you do that, then you can come up with a plan for presenting the idea to council. So yeah, if you feel comfortable doing that, that'd be great. If you need guidance or a template for a resolution, we just lost Wolfgang, but I have that and can provide that template for you.
Yeah, are we still working on a real final template for resolutions?
We have, I mean, the resolution template is pretty basic. There's nothing
Okay.
fancy about that. You know, the whereases are pretty straightforward, and yeah, it's a pretty straightforward thing. You just have the whereases to sort of give background, and then a be it resolved section explains
right.
what you want.
I've just seen some conversation, I guess, going back and forth on whether that, I wasn't sure if that was actually formally, it's the one we're going to use from now on.
Yeah, it is the standard format for resolutions. I
Okay.
talked with the clerk about that. You know, I think the question had been, can we make it simpler?
Yeah.
And the decision was that we would just make companion versions of those. So if we write a resolution in the formal language, someone can then make a translated, simplified kind of plain language version. So
Right.
which
So we-
seems fine.
Yeah.
It's
so
just a
we
little
could-
extra doing, but
So it's vis-a-vis this, I mean, I totally agree that we would come up with what we want to say to council. We would pass it on to the full commission, which would say, yes, go ahead. Because we're not, as a committee, our committee's allowed to just, I didn't think so.
you can draft the resolution that you'd like the commission to consider. And then what I would recommend is that if the commission adopts the resolution, you cite the resolution in a letter to council stating what you want.
Right.
So, and you're just basically saying per resolution, such and such,
Right.
we, the commission, would like to recommend that council pursue a language access plan. And then you could specify some of the things that you want to see in it, but that's all really that it is.
So Wolfgang, are you able to do that? Because I certainly am not.
I can draft a proposal. I actually have a draft version started already. And if we can put that on the agenda for our upcoming Human Rights Commission to discuss, I'm happy to finish it, send it around, people can take a look at it, at least for initial feedback.
Yeah, I would like to see it before it goes to the commission.
Okay, I mean, I can send it to you first.
Yeah.
And then we can
Yeah,
punt it back, and then I can punt it to the whole commission. But I want to give time for the whole commission to see it before the meeting. Because I know,
oh, absolutely, but if it's coming from the committee should
Okay.
first.
And Wolfgang, if you need a template for resolutions, just let me know. I don't know if you heard that part of it, but I can just send you the basics, or you can look at any of the previous resolutions.
That'd be great.
Model whatever, you want to write, just model it after that. Or if you have
Okay,
questions,
sounds good.
contact me, let me know if you have questions and I can give you any pointers.
Yeah, I'd like to see a draft resolution. So that I can kind of put the language that I have into it, which I think should suffice.
I'll send
I'm
you
gonna have a video off just because my internet's quality has been so poor.
yep. Okay,
Okay,
I'll send you a word version of a resolution so you can use that as a template.
Okay, great. And Sue, are you available any other time early next week to kind of go over it together, or any time Sunday afternoon? Oh, I think Sue's on the phone. I think so. You're
I'm
muted.
sorry, I had to take care of that call.
Okay.
Early next week, yeah, I mean, I've got a couple of really busy days, but
When are you available?
to talk.
Yeah, I think we should just, I think it's just be better if we were available
Okay,
to kind of
if you-
edit at the same time.
Right. You and I mean, I could do something Tuesday after you get home back from work.
Sure.
I've got Monday and Tuesday, I have 7 o'clock meetings.
Super.
So I have
Okay.
to do something before that.
Do you want to do a 6 o'clock at Tuesday?
That would be fine.
That way we can both take a look at it.
Yeah.
Take a look at, I'll send my draft to you before then. That way you can go over edits and stuff. We can discuss any substantive issues we have, like on the phone Tuesday.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, I can send it to the whole commission to
Right.
take a look at before our Thursday meeting. Great.
Okay, so we can do this without being noticed.
It's just you and me, so we should be able to, yeah.
Thank
I'll
you.
send you a Zoom.
Thank you. Yeah, 6 o'clock on Tuesday would be fine.
We wouldn't have to notice this one, but maybe the public wants to come and talk to us.
Right.
Yeah,
Never know.
it might happen.
Maybe.
Pretty spicy subcommittee. Okay. Well, that I think is business. We've kind of covered, Todd's going to dig out the disability PSA project information and send it to us probably for the third time. Thank you, Todd.
No problem. It's a lot to keep
And
track of.
Sue and I are
already.
going to, yeah, and I am going to finalize the draft of the language access plan resolution, send it to you,
Yeah.
Sue, and we'll
Yeah.
go over
Yeah.
our edits
Yeah.
on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And hopefully put it on the agenda for this coming Thursday for the Human Rights Commission meeting.
Oh, Lord, that's coming up
Great.
again so fast.
It's next week. I will also be running from another performance, but I'll be here. So
Yeah.
great.
All right. Do you know
So
that?
do you have anything else you want to add to our work session, or should I transition into matters by the public?
Nope.
Okay, then matters by the public. Feel free to use the raise hand function.
We have no
All
attendees.
those in attendance.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I guess we can adjourn.
6:52.
Thanks, Todd.
Yep.
Do you want me to download the captioning and get the minutes to you?
Hey, that would be very helpful if you would do that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I will
I've done
pass
that
it on to
before.
an intern. Yeah. And you have a template for that, correct?
I do. Yeah,
Okay.
it should be fairly simple just because we
Okay, I gotta go.
pretty short and sweet meeting. Okay, Sue, thanks so much. Good to see you. See you Thursday. Well,
Sorry.
Tuesday. Yeah, no problem. Okay. Thanks, Todd.
Thanks. Yep.
Good luck with the rest.
Yeah. Good luck with the play. I hope to make one of those probably on one of the weekend versions. So
Yeah, I can email you the availability. I
Cool.
think you already saw the event, but
I saw the
It's cool.
flyer. I took a picture of it. Yep.
good, good.
Very good. Take care.
Excellent. Have a good night.
Hi, Catherine.
Hey there. How are you?
Doing well. How are you?
Oh, hanging in there. Can't say much more than that.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're here.
Hope someone shows up.
Yeah, me too. These committee meetings have been pretty challenging for folks. We were struggling to get the other one started too, because folks had competing commitments and
Right.
it's hard.
I think that we should, I started to wonder, why do we have a housing and a legal representation committee? Like, they should be the same.
It could be, though, the legal representation committee was started just to deal with the whole idea of parties to a complaint. And so
Right.
I think that was suggested that a separate committee be formed, but you could merge them, whatever you
No,
think.
I think we're gonna merge them because right now they're like the same thing. They're both about housing.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Somewhat, although obviously we deal with all the other protected activities when we talk about the legal
Right.
representation thing, but similar
I mean,
stuff.
fair enough, but we talked about it mostly in the context of housing, I think, so, but yes, I guess they're separate. Oh my gosh, it's too many meetings.
Yeah, I mean, interestingly, the two cases that had legal representation associated with them were both public accommodations.
Oh, were they?
Yep. Mhm.
Okay, well, then maybe we shouldn't merge them.
But whatever. I mean, I like the idea of figuring out ways to be more efficient, so you don't have too many meetings.
Yeah.
I was also thinking we could just hold like the regular meeting and then the committee meeting where anybody who's on a committee could just bring up committee business and you just have all the committees meeting during that meeting. But I don't know how hard that would be.
Well, I think if we were in person, it would work better.
Indeed.
I think on Zoom, it's a little hard. I mean, I don't think on this Zoom setup, we could do breakout sessions.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good Lachine question. I think we probably could, but then yeah, it would be interesting if you needed me to be in multiple rooms, that could be challenging.
There's a way to do it. Brian did it with economic development, but I think it wasn't a webinar that he had to set up. He had to set up like a meeting,
Mhm.
like
Yeah, I
right
think
in a webinar. But I think he had to do a meeting.
It's easy to do at a regular meeting. I do it all the time. But I thought we had to do webinars for these.
The other challenge is that we have people on multiple committees, and so if you broke out, somebody would have to choose which committee they wanted to be part of. So
Right.
And if not everybody wants to sit through as a big group through all the committees, then maybe what we're doing is currently the best way to do it. But maybe we just need to look at other times. It seemed like the workday meeting actually worked fairly well for folks. So maybe that's another way to
I was just texting Mary to see if she was planning on coming, but the answer is yes.
There she is.
She is in
Just
pink.
like that.
So sorry about that. I was actually on the other Zoom for next week's meeting. And
That earlier.
I was like wondering why nobody showed up, even though there was this big sign that says this is not scheduled until 9:16, and I
Yeah.
still did, just sat there.
I did the same thing. I just did it earlier than you.
Exactly. I think I had it up for like 5 minutes, at about 6:15 going, huh,
All right, well, good. Then I really don't feel quite as bad.
that's totally fine.
All right, Mary, I think it's you and me, baby. So
Well, you want me to, I'll just give you the update. I think that I
yeah.
had told you guys that I had talked to LAJC and I had talked to the National Coalition on the Civil Right to Counsel, and it appears that LAJC is being offered a $300,000 contract over 3 years, which will allow them to pay for the salary of one lawyer, and they estimate that will be will cover 100 cases over the course of a year. That was their estimate. I also reached out to Nancy Carpenter and just said, I believe some additional advocacy is called for because this was not what we had understood was going to happen. And she went back and said, that she agreed, and I suggested that we find a time to talk about that, but we have not done that yet. But I'm really sort of disappointed with where the city has ended up on this, because, you know, we originally had suggested $460,000 as the conservative estimate. Then they were talking about $300,000 a year. And now it's basically, it's $100,000 a year. And that is just not enough to justify counselors going around and talking about how they have adopted a right to counsel, because they have not. So,
Yeah, I think we need to really put an end to that right to counsel language. Because you're right, it's absolutely not a right to counsel.
yeah, and even if they had fully funded it, but not adopted an ordinance with a right, you know, I think we could like quibble about
Yeah.
the language, right? Because whatever, but
Yeah.
this is by all accounts not going to be anywhere sufficient to provide representation to most tenants in eviction proceedings.
Right. And do we know how many proceedings there are in a year?
Well, we knew how many there were the year before the pandemic, and I don't remember that number anymore, but I think it was like 700. That was in one of the letters we sent. I think it was about 700. And we had worked with the National Coalition on the Civil Right to Counsel to talk to them about kind of how they came up with numbers. And there was like a certain percentage of like people who just never show up or respond. And so it sort of winnowed, and we winnowed it down. And that's where we came up with the $460,000 figure.
Right.
And that was really assuming the pandemic hadn't happened, which was always a real, like a dramatic understatement. But that's where we are. And I just think we need to take some action there. So I think we can't have people going around declaring victory when what they have done is like fund a position, which is fine. I mean, it's a good thing to do, but it's not kind of what we had hoped to get out of this process.
Okay, and should you envision like an email from us to council just saying, hey, can we talk about the language we're using?
Well, I mean, I would be, I guess my goal isn't to make them scale back their language, but to scale up their commitment, right?
Right, I guess I'm saying it as two related things.
Yeah,
Right? They can't say they have a right to counsel and they're actually providing this. So we need them to stop saying that so the public understands that it is not. And maybe I'm being kind, but I honestly don't think they're deliberately obfuscating. I think
I'm not sure who knows. I'm not sure who knows how this has like played out, right? Because
that's yeah, what I mean.
Because there was some discussion about how it was going to be a bigger contract and they were going to, you know, they wanted the county to commit, and apparently the county didn't commit, which I think is also unfortunate. And we had talked about sending them a letter, which I'm also happy to do, but it seems to me it's like at some level irrelevant whether the city wants to commit money to like making sure that its tenants are protected. I mean, surely it would be better if both localities did that.
Right. Okay.
So I guess I would like to make a big, you know, sort of a public stink about this, and
Perhaps what we need are more public stinks.
well, I
know you're right.
Like a private stink. I don't know. Like
I know you're right. You're right. It's just hard to get airtime.
it's a week of well, I mean, we can.
Yeah.
I think we wouldn't do anything until after the full commission meeting. So
Yeah.
I'm not that all the other public stinks will have died down by then, but
Right.
you know.
Okay. So there's that, and were you also gonna like figure out if the law school was sort of planning to step up anything in response to the Merrick Garland statement?
Yeah, I need to verify my suspicion that they are not doing anything. They fund, and LHAC teaches a housing clinic, the UVA Housing Clinic Law School, UVA Law School Housing Clinic. And so things are funneled through that. And that's what I would understand would happen. So I don't see any effort by the law school to do something outside of that, but I will confirm that. I did say I would do that, and I'm sorry.
No, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, and then I did have, this conversation with Kristen Clarence, and she said, she was certainly having a challenging time placing just, even cases sort of generally.
Okay.
But I don't know, and then I don't know what we say, Todd. I don't know, sort of precisely how to propose funding for the other kind of right to counsel. I mean, they could, certainly like create a pot of money that they would allocate to pay private lawyers at some like reduced rate. But there would have to be some system for that, right? Like for ensuring that lawyers were competent in the area that they said they were going to, represent people in. And then, kind of, I don't know what that system is, because it's not as easy as we're just going to give this to a nonprofit, right?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. I was talking with someone in procurement actually today, just a little bit about other things procurement wise, but also the topic of the legal representation fund for parties to a complaint came up, and the idea of being like, how does that get set up? Are those lawyers that are contracted vendors with the city, like a list of lawyers that are already like that they can just be paid directly by the city, or is it that you reimburse somebody for their costs, or you give somebody funds to go find their own attorney? Yeah, there's a lot of questions like that. If it becomes more of a program held by the city rather than, something that it's granted to a nonprofit. So maybe part of what you can think about is, you see the flaws in the current way it's being handled. I don't see why you wouldn't, propose, if you can think of a better system, propose those changes and say, we would like a dialogue with you about how we can make these reforms and what the best method would be. Or if you can find another locality that has a good method, present some of those structures to them to say, this is how it's working effectively in another community. That's a possible way.
I did ask the National Coalition on Civil Right to Counsel about what they did in other, with other, if they had seen this kind of system. And they told me that generally the housing complainants would be represented by the local fair housing entity that would actually provide representation in a proceeding like this. And I said, I don't believe that happens here. But that apparently happens in many other localities.
And so just to clarify, so this would be like the Virginia equivalent would be the Virginia Fair Housing Office out of the Department of, what is it, the Protection of Occupational something or others, DPOR. I can't always forget that.
I think a non-state entity.
Because if we're talking about the Fair Housing Office, that's what that would be. And actually the Attorney General's office provides legal counsel for any case that goes through them at the state level.
Oh, it does?
Yep, that's how that works. So because they're a
Okay.
FAP, and so they're obligated to any case that has a finding of probable cause, there's an obligation for it to then be pursued in court. And so that's how they provide counsel for that.
Are they required to do that if they are a FAP?
Based
if
on,
we-
yeah, that's one of the things that we have to reconcile as well is that that is for substantial equivalence. That is a requirement. So yeah, and so the city attorney's office would be required to probably, provide that unless they contracted it out.
How can they do that at this and be the fact finder as well?
So the commission is the fact finder. Well, the director is the fact finder. The commission upholds or dismisses, overturns the finding of fact. And then if they uphold it, then it automatically gets taken to general district court, I guess, in this case. But I guess it would be in federal court if it were under the FAP. So it's a dual filing. So I guess it could go both ways when you're a FAP. So that's a good question. But I do believe that, it's the city attorney's office isn't the fact finder. They would just take the case from there after it had a finding of fact, right?
Okay.
But
So, yeah, so I mean, it seems like that sort of effort to get council we could get wrapped up in the FAP, but we could wrap that into the request to approve the FAP agreement, right? If that's part of what they're going to have to approve.
well, sort of. Yeah, I mean, we're talking about two different things. If we're talking about what we were considering in terms of the legal representation for parties to a complaint, that's different because that's representation for the complainant or respondent. Whereas if there's a finding of probable cause and then the commission upholds it and then it goes forward to court, that is representation of the city's interests. So it's not.
I
brought
totally
forth on-
misunderstood.
It's
I
super
totally
confusing.
misunderstood. That's why I didn't understand why there wasn't like a conflict there. So I misunderstood you.
Yeah.
completely.
So they don't, it's weird. The way that Eric phrased it is they bring forth a suit on behalf of the individual, but they don't represent the individual. It's basically the city's interests on behalf of the case. Basically, it's really, it's weird. It requires a little bit more like conversation about what does that entail. But that's obviously separate from the whole representation in evictions, right? Like that's a different thing as well. So I don't think like the city attorney's office is not going to be representing people in that case. So
Yeah, and so maybe I led us astray because we're supposed to be focused on housing, and I know we have folks coming to talk at our next commission meeting, but we'll want to give like the housing committee kind of report and recommendation. And so beyond making the stink about the right to counsel, kind of what else do we have, for the housing committee kind of agenda?
Well, I guess I wanted to figure out how critical this eviction situation is going to be in Charlottesville. I keep reading news stories about, we're on this precipice and the avalanche of evictions and all of that. Is that genuinely happening here? And should we be, I don't know what do we need to be doing? How's that? Something should be done, Mary, by someone.
I am with you. I actually
Fully
don't
advocate.
know. I don't know where the numbers are. And I know that Virginia's done apparently a pretty good job giving out like rent relief money compared to other states.
Right. So
But-
that's why I was wondering how particularly bad it was here.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. I mean, that might be something that we could check in with DSA about and see kind of whether they're able to continue monitoring.
Okay, so I will be happy to check in with them
Okay,
about that, since we always end meetings with you having a list and me saying thank
well,
you.
I did suggest to Nancy that we try to catch up, by phone or something, but we haven't set a time. So if you can find that out easily, that'd be great.
Yeah, I can do that to find out. And if that's the case, then I would wonder like what specific actions we could advocate for, support, suggest, whatever. beyond what we've already talked about, following up with the law school, pushing on the right to counsel stuff. I had a second thing. I don't know what my second thing was. Oh, we need to figure out the click situation and who's going to go to those meetings.
Yep. Can you guys hear me by chance?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, because I can't, Zoom is completely crashed. All I can see is the closed caption, and so I'm not even sure what, if it's working. Just to give you an update, I did email back and forth a bit with Emily Dreyfus. What they are looking for specifically is they want representatives who identify as people of color, and they want, ideally somebody who with lived experience as a low income tenant or otherwise. So that's the criteria they gave to me. I sort of tried to explain that, well, asking, we have not that many actually people of color on the commission right now, but and I don't know what people's living situations are, so that if they were sort of held fast to those criteria, we may not be able to meet them. So just let
It's also, it can be very burdensome to demand that a person of color, be the person who is the representative.
Agreed. I thought that was a little bit problematic, but that was their criteria. I mean, you could certainly push back on that if you wanted to.
Well, I mean, I guess we can ask at the commission, right, whether somebody was, willing to be our liaison there.
Yep.
And, explain what they were looking for and asking if, anybody felt like they could do that. And if not, then we, I guess, decide who is able to do that, who may not, fit that criteria.
We could also go the other direction. We're losing several commissioners, have lost, will be losing.
Oh, that's true.
And we could push on Click to say, who among your people would like to apply to be a human rights commissioner and attend all our meetings?
That's a great idea. That's
a really good idea.
Yep.
Can people apply now?
That's a great question. I was getting ready to look at that on the website, but I was
Pretty
past
sure
something.
the answer is yes. They have like set dates that they review.
Right. Somebody reached out to me and had interest in
Yeah.
applying.
I'll look that up right now, actually. Let's see, current openings. Let's see what it says. I think let's see if the Human Rights Commission is listed. I don't actually see it. I mean, we do have vacancies, but for some reason we're not listed. And I've informed them that we have lost recently one commissioner, and they know we're about to lose more. So yeah. I'll make a note of that and just reach out to clerk's office about that.
Okay, thanks.
Because that would be useful. I mean, that it would be good for the Human Rights Commission.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to talk about, I guess, was, as I don't know the role the Human Rights Commission can play in this. And I think having Dan and Sunshine come Rory is gonna help some. But like the next door chatter, the neighborhood association letters, right? Like the discussion that's going on around housing right now is not good.
No, it's so gross. And
It
it's
is
so
awful.
It's so gross. And it's just, it also it's couched in the language of racial justice and equity sometimes, the grab concepts that we say we all agree on and impose those on, really kind of gross ideas and letters.
It's bad. And it is literally the language of, white supremacy. Like if you took the language and you put it in a documentary about 1956, The words
It's the
would
wrong
be
time,
the same.
right?
Words would be the same. Yeah, so I would like to, I don't know what we can do about that, but I do think we need to have that be part of our discussion
I think,
at the
And-
meeting.
sorry, I'm jumping in because
Yeah,
I can't
please.
see I can't see the pauses. Part
Yeah,
of that. One of the things that, another way of being publicly active in that would be, you can attend any of those meetings, just like anybody could attend our meetings and make public comment. I believe they all have public comment period. And I think that was powerful.
so I have attended. So
Yeah.
I attended, I made comments, I sent emails.
Sent a
like-
letter and email, yeah,
Yeah.
in my
Yeah.
personal capacity.
And I hung on that planning commission work session until like 11 o'clock at night and, the tornado and the whole thing. Totally. So yes, for sure.
You're doing
And
that.
maybe, is there a role for the Human Rights Commission to be writing formal letters to the planning commission and to city council? Right.
I mean, I think that's, I think that, I know there are lots of people who've done this really well, but I think like the discourse needs to be reframed.
Right.
And it seems like that's a role that we could play in helping to move that along and to say that like, this is all, the language of white supremacy. And like, these are literally policies of white supremacy that now have been, sort of, covered over and appear neutral because they've just hung around a long time.
What makes me nuts is that we talk constantly about structural, like everyone now like talks about structural inequity. This is literally like, this is the like opportunity that's being handed to us on a platter to change the structures. How often do you have such an opening for that? And so I really feel like we need to like keep ramming at it. Can the Human Rights Commission write a letter to the editor?
I believe you
Like-
can. I mean, that's part of what you have to decide in terms of how you do that public facing advocacy. I think that's the piece of the part of the point of that resolution, right? You pass that resolution that says, this is what we're going to do, folks. It's codified and this is how we're going to do it. And you include that, letters to the editor, letters to council, letters to wherever. Yeah, I think that is up to you if you want to do that. And I am interested in the idea, the notion that the commission speaks to another commission, right? In my experience, I haven't seen that happen. Maybe it does more frequently than I realize, but that idea of one commission sort of providing a statement to another based on its area of expertise, I think it makes sense. I don't know why you wouldn't.
Right. I mean, racial justice and equity is not the mission of the Planning Commission,
Indeed.
right? Like, hopefully they think about those things, but that is not why they exist, right?
Yep.
But it is why we exist. And so, like, I think we could run like a little mini campaign, right? We could write a letter and we could write op-ed, we could do some probably social media, like, in our own personal stuff that we like.
Well, if we did that, then we would get a news story and all of that. I think the question is what the most effective timing would be to put something out, right? Is it now? Is it a week before a vote? We should probably talk to someone who understands the structure of what's going to happen better. But I think we should have talking points and be ready to go on this.
Yeah, I mean, it takes us a while to do anything, frankly. So I think deciding that we want to do this next week and then, getting those things together makes sense.
Speaking of timing, it is 7:27
Right.
and I know the next committee's coming on shortly. Also, I can't see the screen anymore, aside from the tiny little closed captioning. So I have no idea if there are members of the public who would like to speak. I may call
There
on.
are
the
none.
TV.
We
There
are
are none?
zero attendees.
Okay, well, that makes it much easier because I wasn't going to be able to give them permission, sadly, because I've lost control. I will have to probably log out and get back in for the next meeting. But anyway, just a time marker there. But yeah, I agree. They think being ready to take some action at the next meeting on Thursday makes a lot of sense.
Who do you think we should talk to between now and then about timing, et cetera, Catherine?
I think Rory, for example, I mean, he's a planning commissioner. He's
Yeah.
got a good sense of what's happening. I could have a conversation with him.
Okay,
And I would be happy to write up a little like, you know, messaging plan that we can put substance into.
okay.
Like, I think we need something thoughtful.
That seems fair. I
Right?
agree with you.
I mean, we could just
Versus,
get a letter, we could do this, we could do that, but I would like.
yeah,
us
I
to
mean,
have a little
versus
bit
like
of-
we support the livable communities letter, right? Like
Yeah,
we should have something kind of in our own voice.
yeah.
Okay,
All right,
sounds good.
thank you very much. Good job.
Okay,
Without
you all.
saying anything, Todd.
can I just hang on here for the next committee meeting?
Yeah, what you'll see
Okay.
is I'm gonna hop off and then try to come
Okay.
back on, and hopefully we'll be able to see things again. So I'll mark this as adjourned at 7:29. And
Okay, I'm
hopefully I'll
just
be
gonna
able
hang
to
out here
return.
then.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, all right. Can you see now, Todd? Can't hear you,
Well, that is because I was muted.
but I can see you.
Yes, here I am, and now I'm audible. Yeah, this is a lot better than just seeing the closed caption box, although that was kind of fun.
Sadly, there's nobody else here. I wasn't sure who else was planning to join this.
Let's see. And to be honest, with however many committees we have, I think 6 committees now. I've forgotten which one this is, and I will now.
This
look
is
at
the legislative committee.
legislative committee. Yes, and I requested a little bit of extra information, to see if council had moved any further on this, and I didn't get any new updates. So I think we're
Well, council has other things on their
Indeed.
plate.
indeed.
Yeah. I'm not sure kind of like what the historical role of the commission has been. Like, do we just like recommend any changes that seem like they kind of further racial equity, or is it like, are they kind of specific to Charlottesville?
Yeah.
I mean, there are a couple states that have now adopted statewide right to counsel in eviction proceedings laws. So like we could recommend something like that, though the fact that the city isn't kind of doing it, pushing it forward, means they may not be very interested in that. But I guess I just don't know. Like, there's lots of changes I could recommend, out in the world,
Yeah.
or that even that I know that are actually like coming up in the General Assembly. But I don't know whether those are the kinds of things that that have historically come from the commission as recommendations, or that,
I think it's been a little bit inconsistent in terms of, it's one of those things where I don't think council remembers that it's one of the commission's duties in the ordinance to provide those recommendations, so they don't seek them out. And so it does take a little bit of asking each year, like, are there any things in the works that we can, so there's like 2 roles, right? You can review the things that council is considering to propose. And the way I understand that it works is they 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 approve a slate of recommendations, and then they hand that to TJPDC, which then combines that with other regional recommendations and then takes that to the General Assembly. That's my understanding of how it works. And so you can look on TJPDC's website for the historical recommendations that council has brought forward. I haven't looked at it recently, but it's a little bit challenging sometimes to find those things, but it's on there. I mean, in last year, I think we made maybe 2 or 3 recommendations, all that came from the commission itself, because we didn't know what council was proposing at that point and the deadline was such that we wouldn't know what they were proposing until after they had approved it. So we just came up with our own and looked at the previous year's recommendations and kind of based it off of that. So that is what I know.
All right, I'm on their website and it's not obvious kind of where that
Yeah.
is.
It
I
may
mean, like there are lots of things that like are going to come up before the General Assembly that I think, are issues of concern that affect, racial justice and equity. Like, there's a voting rights bill that's going to restore, or at least, put something on the ballot to restore voting rights to more than 300,000 people who've been convicted of felonies. Like that's
Yes.
something I think is a good thing, but is that like a Human Rights Commission recommendation, and the city like play some role in that, or are they focused more on things like that give the city permission to do, to take action to create a more
Well, so for
Yeah.
example, I think at one point, I think last year, and I have to look back at it, last year, I believe Catherine had suggested one where it was something having to do with the removal of expungement of some criminal record. I can't remember specifically what it was, which I thought that was a very clear thing to present. I had also suggested, proposing legislation that allowed municipalities to create rental registries such that the municipality wasn't bound by one rule that said there was no authorizing legislation that allowed them to create
just a rental registry. They're not
Yes.
allowed to do that.
such that landlords, you could require landlords to register all rental properties with the city so that you could inspect them for quality and also have an inventory of what properties were for rent. So yeah, then that happens in other states. So those were a couple of things. And I can't remember, I'd have to look back, and I think I have found the page where all the legislative stuff is on TJPDC, but we can look at that. I mean, for, what I'm kind of been wrestling with is that I think that is maybe one of the more powerful things, is if there are things that are currently do not allow the municipality to do things that support equity and rights, then I think that those are ways we could say, hey, if you can enable a municipality to do that, then we can make recommendations to council for ordinance changes. So that's one way to think about it. But
Well, it would be very useful to get the view of the city attorney about whether a locality can enact a right to counsel ordinance. I suspect they would say no. And it would be good to know if that is their view, because then we could suggest that be changed.
yes,
And similarly, are there issues with providing, the council in the human rights, in the human
Yeah.
rights like complainant system, right? Can
Right.
they?
yeah, I think we talked
Right,
about that in that legal representation committee meeting too, to ask that of Lisa.
Yeah, and it was actually, I think that the city attorney was actually not at our last HRC meeting because she
No.
was on vacation, right?
Yeah.
So she had reached out and said that. So I think we didn't ask for her view
Yep.
at that time, but that might be a good step because that's directly related to our advocacy.
I mean, we could in fact just see if we can get, a meeting with Allison, you and Allison and whomever else you want present, just to ask some of these questions, because
Yeah, that'd be great.
that might
That'd
be
be
the
great.
easiest way to get this happening.
Right,
'Cause it-
because I don't
yeah.
want to propose changes in state law if she thinks,
Yep.
you know, oh, the city could do this, we just don't, you know, council just didn't want to do this, right?
Yeah.
And that's, right, okay.
Yep.
Um,
And she
I-
may
I
want to
would-
pull, go ahead.
yeah, I would love to do that. I think that would, I have actually a number of questions. that-
Okay. I'll see if I can make that happen. And just so you know, like Lisa is advising, obviously advising council on their bit around the legislative agenda. So I'm sure Allison will then check in with Lisa about some of these things, but I can see if we can get on Allison's calendar. May not be before Thursday, but I can try. I can see if I can, next Thursday, but I'll see if we can get, do you have time that that might work for you next
I
week?
do. I'm not,
Okay.
the next, I'm less, crazy than I used to be. I will say, I did also reach out to Ashley and ask her if we were allowed to meet in closed session to talk about the hiring. And
Yeah.
she said she believed that we were, and that she needed to run that by Allison.
Yeah.
So about, like, not just can we do it, but how we do that.
Yes, yeah, I think HR stuff, you definitely, not
Right.
human rights, but human resources, I think is definitely.
But
close.
I think this process is going to take a really long time if the only way we could do it is like one-on-one. So I think if we could just go into closed session for some short period of time, that would be
Yeah.
ideal.
Yeah.
So that would be another thing to follow up with her about. So.
Okay, yeah, I
I'd
think
like
that's a
to-
good thing to do. Good, okay, well, so so you mentioned that you think you have some more flexibility next week. What,
Yep.
if I look here, actually, let me look at Allison's calendar, because I think I can see that. And I'll tell you when I think she's open, and maybe we can work from there. Hopefully I don't like shut Zoom down again while trying to do this. Let's see here. Yes. All right. Okay, so let's see if we can. Are there days where you would prefer? I can look at those first.
Not particularly.
Okay. It's kind of looking like she's got some space on Monday at this point. Around looks like between 9 and 10:30, and then between 11 and 1:30.
I'm free 11 to 12:30.
Okay, I'll propose that one.
Yeah, I mean, presumably we don't need that whole time, but it's a
Yeah.
window.
Yeah, maybe we can say like 11, because she's got something that looks like up until 11. Maybe we can give her some breathing space and propose 11:30 to 12:30.
That'd be fantastic.
Okay, I'll pitch that one first.
Yeah, I mean, if we could have the conversation before the commission meeting, that would be ideal.
Yep. Okay. I'll send
Right.
that calendar invite to her. Okay, I suppose we called this to order at 7:36, I think was what I saw.
Okay, well, and I think you can, call it over.
Okay, great.
But
Well, thanks.
thanks, I appreciate that. Setting that up with Allison, that's great.
Yeah, that may give us a little bit more guidance on how we do this in the future as well, because it is a little bit, it's a mysterious charge, so we can figure it out. Great. Well,
All right, sounds good.
anything else?
I don't think so.
Okay, great.
Okay, thanks, Todd.
Take care. See ya.
Have a good one. Okay, bye.
Lasheen, I think we're officially done.
Oh, wow, that wasn't too long.
No, it didn't take too long. I mean, all these we're kind of feeling things out in each one of them, so we're getting there. Thanks for
Sounds
your
good.
support.
Yeah, no problem. Have a good rest of your evening.
Thanks, you too. See ya.
Bye.